Belt sanders. They're one of the most versatile tools you can have in a garage shop and a blacksmith shop because they provide an opportunity for modification, stock removal, flattening, all that good stuff. Main problem with them is that they tend to be quite expensive, but not with the one I'm reviewing for you guys today. Today I'm going to give you a breakdown on the 1x30 belt grinder that I got from Harbor Freight. It's made by Central Machinery, so you can probably find it in most tool shops. And yeah, this thing is $60 base price. Takes about $20 every few months in belts, depending on how much you use it. I've used mine for woodworking and metalworking primarily, and I've used it for the better part of 2 years. Today we're going to go over the functionality of it, the reliability of it, how to use it, and I'm also going to throw in some mods at the end that I've used to make mine work just that much better for me. First off, functionality. This thing's motor is rated at about 1/4 horsepower, and it's really good for basic stock removal. I've been able to make a ton of knives, tools, and handles using this belt sander, as well as on a day-to-day basis when my dad needs stuff in the garage modded. Maybe you need to grind down a hinge so then it works best for your little project. Maybe you need to flatten something out so it fits a little bit better. All that kind of stuff is what this thing really excels at. It's very compact, so it's really easy to integrate into a garage shop or just a small shed shop like what I've got, right? And I'd say it's really good for a hobbyist in general, whether that be blacksmithing, woodworking, or maybe you just like to tinker in your garage. This thing gives you the opportunity to flatten out things, shape things to how you want them to be, and overall just provides a lot of modification potential. Like I said, I've used it to make knives, I've used it to make handles out of wood for other tools like this thing actually, and I've also used it to make my own tools out of rebar and stuff like that. I've got tutorials on that on my channel, and if you go through my videos, I've used it in every single project I have on this channel. Overall, it's a very functional tool, and I found a lot of different ways to use it. Now let's get into the reliability of it. Like I said, I've used mine for the better part of 2 years, and it has not really crapped out on me at all. I interchange belts and stuff like that to make sure it's maintained, and I do my best to take care of my tools, right? It's really easy to maintain. I've had a little bit of hiccups here and there, but it's pretty easy to troubleshoot since it's such a simple grinder. It's also pretty cheap to replace the belts since they are 1x30 belts. They aren't super big and not hard to produce for manufacturers. So like I said earlier, you're probably only going to look at $20 in belts every few months. Overall, it's a really reliable tool in my opinion. Obviously it has its quirks and we'll go over a few cons later, but for the price and for somebody who's just doing it as a hobby, it's really good. So let's get into how to use it, because if you're going to invest into this, you got to know how it works, right? From what I remember, it comes in the box ready to go. You don't really have to do much setup. It has a few more parts than you're going to see on mine because I've modded mine out, obviously. Like I said, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you can add attachments such as the table and stuff. It comes ready to go with that stuff. Switching belts is pretty easy, but it did take me a second to figure out my first time. How you do it is by loosening this knob here and then just sliding the belt off. Depending on the belt, it can be easy or hard to get it on or off. Overall, I really like this belt exchange method. It's super easy, and after a few mods, it only takes a few seconds to switch a belt out. You can also use that same knob to adjust where the belt is on the track. So if you want the belt to be a little bit more to the right, a little bit more to the left, depending on how you're grinding. When you're grinding, if you want a flat surface, be sure to use that supported part of the grinder. That'll ensure that you get a nice, flat, even grind. That's where I go to whenever I'm making a bevel on a project such as a knife. To get a bit of a smoother grind or even a curved bevel, you're gonna want to go to that unsupported part of the belt. I don't know if this is an intentional part of the design or not, but it's really nice to have that flexible area to grind some of those softer curves in. When you're grinding, be sure to not push too hard. I've snapped a few belts doing that, and it's always a little bit scary. And with that, always use eye protection with this thing. Eye protection is a must. It's also a really good idea to use hand and ear protection because nobody really wants to die in the shop, right? Now let's jump into some of those mods that I mentioned earlier in order to make this tool that much more effective. First off, I took off the side plate. This allows for belt changes to be about 10 times faster, and overall the side plate isn't a very necessary piece anyway. I also removed the top spark guard, and then I had to grind down a little bit of the side plating next to it. Reason being is because I wanted to be able to utilize that wheel and make circular grinds with it. I don't regret it because I use that part of the grinder a lot for stylistic things, stock removal. Overall, it's just a really nice area because it gives you more options on grind. I personally have never really used the plate that comes with it. That's really good if you're looking for accurate 90-degree angles, and it's super easy to attach and detach because of how the belt sander is built. If you're able to, be sure to bolt it down. That's what I did, and it makes everything so much smoother. If you don't, since it's such a light grinder, it will move around a bit whenever you're applying pressure to things, and it just gets really annoying. And be sure to use good abrasive companies with this belt sander. I personally use Combat Abrasives. They've got a lot of good 1x30 belts, but a lot of the major grinding companies do have those. Using good belts is just going to make your grinding better. It's going to improve your overall finish work, and everything just becomes a bit less of a headache when it comes to grinding. Sadly, nothing's perfect, so let's get into some of the cons of this belt sander that I've run into. First off, it's not the most powerful stock remover. Like I said earlier, it's a really good stock remover, and I stand by that. But if you see those videos online of people pushing something into a belt sander and it just like disappears and vaporizes, yeah, that's not really going to happen with this grinder, sadly. The motor is really good for small projects and stuff like that, but it's not quite powerful enough to just go absolutely hog wild on everything, right? Another thing is that the dust kind of gets everywhere with this grinder. I guess that's the case for any grinder without a solid dust collection system. And a lot of this reason is because of actually the mod that I like to do of removing the side plate. If you do that mod, you're gonna see a lot of dust coming out the side, and that's just the reality. With it being a 1x30 grinder, it also has a pretty small grinding space, only an inch of width on that belt. So that does make it a little bit harder to do really big projects on this thing. You can manage, but it really just isn't made to do a massive project. But for small projects like knives, tool manufacturing, and even basic handles, it does the job really well. Those are the three main cons that I've experienced. But with all that being said, it is a $60 grinder, so you're not gonna get the most powerful grinder out there, obviously. And for the price that it is, I'd say it well exceeds the quality that I would expect from a grinder like this. So overall, how do I feel about this grinder? I'd say it's a really good investment for any small garage shop, beginner blacksmith shop, even woodworking. It has a lot of capabilities like I've gone over, and the ability to mod it is invaluable. It's a very versatile tool overall. You can use it for a ton of projects, and like I just said, it's super high quality for the price, I feel like. With it being $60 too, it kind of gives you some peace of mind to tinker with it a little bit too. I'm sure there's a ton of mods you can do that I haven't even thought of. And overall, just the ability to buy 1x30 abrasives for it from professional companies is super nice. I've had a few belt sanders in the past with a lot of awkward belt sizes, and because of that, you can't really get high quality abrasives, and it makes everything just really annoying. Overall, I would totally recommend it to any hobbyist out there who's trying to get another tool in their shop, or especially beginner blacksmiths. And with that being said, if you are looking to get into blacksmithing, it's probably a lot easier than you think. I made a whole video on it that I'm going to put right here. Hope this video was informative. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them. And yeah, I'll be seeing you in this video in a sec.